Mhairi, it's lovely to be here chatting with you today, and perhaps just give us a little flavour of who you are, a little bit of background, where you're from, a bit of family background.
Okay. I'm Mhairi, and I'm originally from Scotland. I was brought up in a little town 20 miles west of Edinburgh with my mum and my dad and my older sister Rona. And I've lived in Birmingham now for 20 years, over 20 years.
Was it a husband that brought you to
Birmingham?
Birmingham?
I'm afraid it was a man that brought me down.
A brummie brought you down?
Yes.
Do you still miss Scotland? Or?
To be honest, Birmingham is home. I love it here. I do miss aspects of Scotland, and obviously we go up quite often, but this is home. So, yeah.
Now, Mhairi, today we're going to be hearing quite a bit about how important your faith in Jesus Christ is to you. Yeah. But you didn't always have that faith, did you?
No.
Was it in your teenage years that you became a Christian?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I was brought up going to church. I was brought up going to church in Scotland, but it was very kind of nominal, really. It was, you went to church on a Sunday. For me, it didn't really mean an awful lot in the week. Didn't really think about God very much during the week. And it wasn't until I was 17 and I played the guitar, and I have a very good friend of mine, Julie, who's a Christian. She thought because I went to church and I played the guitar that I was a Christian, and she invited me to come and play my guitar with her music band in her church on a Sunday evening. So I started going along there and playing my guitar with the band, and realised very quickly that these people had a kind of faith that I really hadn't seen before. They had a real relationship with God. And to them, Jesus was real, and it really just struck me that this was something I hadn't really seen before, and it intrigued me. I didn't really want to become a Christian because I wanted to be free to do whatever I want and whatever I saw it maybe as being something that was restrictive. So I kind of fought against it, but Julie set about trying to convert me. And along with the other guys in the band, just seeing their lives lived out, this real relationship that they had with God just intrigued me so much. I started to look more into the Bible, looked at what Jesus had done, who he claimed to be, and was just really compelled by Jesus, just that his life and the things that he said were just something that I hadn't really ever thought deeply about before, and so I just sort of was really compelled by him. I sort of read in the Bible about how he lived a perfect life, and that he actually came in order to die so that the wrong things that we've done can be forgiven, so that we can have a relationship with God. And I just was blown away by that, really. And I did fight it for a while, but eventually felt that I can't fight this any longer. Jesus is really, what he has done is just so amazing that I have to give my life to him. I have to ask his forgiveness. I have to give my life over to Jesus and become a Christian. And so I was just almost 18 when I did that.
And life was transformed for you? Yes,
in many ways it was, yes. Yes, I've noticed a difference straight away in that I had this real relationship with God that I hadn't had before, and God was real to me. And I have had struggles with doubts over the years, many times, and I've had to go back through, what do I believe? Do I really believe this? Does the evidence stack up? Is what the Bible says credible? And I've done that time and time again, and I've always come back to the conclusion that yes, what the Bible says is credible. That that this message I believe is true. So yeah.
And particularly in the last couple of years, there's really been a lot of challenges to your faith and time of real difficulty actually in your family life, isn't there, Mhairi? Yeah. Tell us about it. Cancer has come into your world in a drastic way in those last 2 years. Yeah. Tell us about your cancer journey.
Yeah. Okay. January 2015, I found a lump under my arm and then a lump in my breast, and I kind of have having a bit of a medical background, kind of knew that this probably wasn't very good news. Went to the doctors and was referred appropriately, and was told then that I had breast cancer. So 2015 was spent basically being treated for my primary breast cancer. So I had chemotherapy first of all, then surgery, then radiotherapy. So the whole process took almost a year. And then once that was all over with, as far as we knew, everything was fine.
Mm-hmm.
It was tough going, but I got through it with lots of help and support and prayer. And 2016 was a great year for me. I was really well. I lost a lot of weight, got really fit. I've had a lot of struggles with depression over the years. My depression had never been so good. I hadn't felt so good mentally for about 10 years. So 2016 was a fantastic year. So I decided to go back into nursing, really inspired by the breast care nurses that had looked after me during my initial treatment. And I wanted to go back into doing some sort of cancer specialist nursing. So whether it was breast care nursing or palliative care was something that really interested me. So that was my aim. So I did a return to nursing course. And it was while I was doing that and while I was doing my placement that I became unwell again. And this time it was completely different symptoms. And I thought it was just my gallbladder was playing up. I had gallbladder stones. Because I was having lots of abdominal pain and vomiting. I couldn't eat very well. And this gradually got worse over the course of December until I was admitted to hospital just before Christmas in December 2016. Again, I still thought it was my gallbladder, and I had a scan, and I just expected them to say, oh yes, you've got some stones in your gallbladder, we need to take it out. Unfortunately, the radiographer was very concerned about a few of the things that she could see, and I knew at that point that it wasn't my gallbladder. And so she said, you're going to have a CT scan because we need to have a closer look at some things. So the next day I had a CT scan, and that was Christmas Eve last year. And then in the afternoon the consultant came up to see me to tell me that they had found 2 tumours round one of my ovaries, and there was something else going on in my abdomen. They weren't quite sure what it was, but it didn't look good. So Christmas Eve 2016 was not a good day.
No.
And I realised that the cancer had returned, or I had a new cancer. I didn't know at that point what it was.
So you and your husband are both, it's Christmas time,
yeah,
and you and your husband together are trying to process the information you've had.
Yeah. You're
celebrating Christmas with the family.
Yeah.
And in the midst of all that, you're, I guess, saying, what is going on, God?
Yeah.
What's happening? Did the why question come out straight away, or did you just say, this is how it is, God's in control, or how did your faith stand up at that time?
I think, to be honest, at that point we were just in shock, really.
Yeah.
And in a sense, you're kind of, in terms of faith, all you can do at that point is cling on and just say, Lord, I have no idea what is going on here. At that point we didn't really know what was going on. We didn't know whether it was a secondary cancer that had spread or whether it was a new primary cancer, although it looked like it was not good. It looked like it spread anyway, even if it was. So we knew it wasn't good, but at that point, from a faith point of view, we were just clinging on and saying, God, we have no idea what's going on here. Please just sustain us through this time. You know, obviously after Christmas we had a lot more appointments and tests and things like that, and it eventually turned out that I have secondary breast cancer. So the breast cancer had spread and to various parts of my body. I've got tumours in various parts.
Yeah. They've used the term incurable.
Yes.
Unpack that for us. What does that mean?
Yeah. So that means just that because it's in my system, it's in my lymph system, they can't ever get rid of it completely. So I will always have cancer unless God performs a miracle and heals me. So yes, I will always have cancer. The likelihood is that it will cut my life considerably short.
How have you thought about eternity and those sorts of things in the light of that?
Yeah, I think when you're faced with your life being cut short. It's actually really good for focusing the mind on what's really important, what's really important in life, and what's important for death as well. And I think I've just really been overwhelmed in my reading of the Bible in this time, the last sort of 9 months, by how God is with us through our suffering. There's so many points in the Bible where the writers are crying out to God in their suffering, and they are going through terrible times, and they're able to be honest with God and say, this is how I am feeling, this is what I'm experiencing at the moment, and it's just awful. But they have this hope and faith in God, that God is with them through their suffering, and that God will sort everything out so that everything will come right in the end. And I think for me, just knowing that I have that real relationship with God through Jesus, and that actually God is with me through this time, this really difficult time, has just transformed my experience of this difficult time. My focus really has, and I'm really thankful to God for this, that He's enabled me to really focus on Him and the fact that I have this real relationship with God.
Do you feel it's more real than it
even
used to be?
I do, actually, yes. I feel that I'm closer to God, and in many ways that's probably a poor reflection on how I was before, because in a sense this has forced me to come closer to God, and sort of rely on Him more, because actually I have nothing else. There's no one who can help me but God, really, with this situation. And I don't even mean in terms of healing and things like that, although obviously I do pray for healing. I just mean in terms of it being able to cope with the emotional pain, the anxiety about my family, and all these worries that come into your mind when you've got this kind of diagnosis. For me, to be able to go to God with all this is just the most immense privilege and amazing thing, and there are so many, as I say, there's so many instances in the Bible where the writers kind of cry out to God and actually find that He meets them there where they're suffering and helps them, and they have that hope, and that real peace from God. And I really feel that I've experienced that as well. It doesn't mean that it's easier. I would say it's not. It doesn't make the suffering or the pain or the anxiety easier, but it means that I know that God is with me in it. I kind of imagine, in a sense, I'm kind of feel like I'm standing on the edge of a hillside in a force 10 gale, and I'm being buffeted and blown, and just kind of really trying to cling on, but actually God has got me. He's there with me, and it's like He's holding on to my ankles really firmly, so I'm not going anywhere. And although I'm still being buffeted by that storm, God's got me, and I can't ask for any more than that, So.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, Mhairi, that always strikes me is you sing in our church, and I'm not the only one, I think, that has this response when you sing, and you have got an amazing voice. I know you won't admit it, but you have. When you sing, it really feels like it's a demonstration of God's glory. God is working through your voice, and I'm really struck, and I've written them down. They really strike me. You sing in Christ alone, and those words: no guilt in life, no fear in death, from life's first cry to final breath. And Jesus commands my destiny. And then, till He returns or calls me home, here in the power of Christ I'll stand. Now, when you sing that, Mhairi, you sing it absolutely convinced and convicted. It certainly seems like that's an absolute conviction that, you know, till he returns or calls me home. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, my hope and the thing that sustains me each day is that this life is not all there is, and that when I die, I will be with God, and I will be able to see him as he really is. I'll be able to worship him as he deserves to be worshipped. I'll have no pain, I'll have no suffering, there'll be no tears, you know, I won't have cancer anymore. And that, you know, I'll be able to worship him, you know, just in the splendour of heaven. And I just think that's an amazing thought, you know, and that hope just really sustains me, you know, and knowing that God actually is in control of everything, that God is all powerful. And you could say, well, you know, he could take away suffering and cancer and whatever at a stroke, and yes, he could.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't know why he doesn't, you know. There are lots of questions, there are lots of problems with this, you know, and I don't want to shy away from that. There are lots of whys. I never really particularly think, why me? Because I think, well, why not me? So many other people in the world have problems and suffer as well, and many, you know, in much worse ways than I am. But these are really difficult questions, but ultimately God will put things right, you know, and I really, really believe that, and that's a huge sustaining hope for me, really.
Yeah, and I know you've had a lot of support from family. You've got a very loving, close family, and you've got lots of good friends. And even in a really tough time, you can see the love of people, and that is a demonstration of God's love ultimately as well, isn't it? And, lots of people really, really feeling it and going through it with you, Barry. What would you want to say to those loved ones around, family, friends? What would you want to say to them about this time of your life? Yeah,
I think we have been just showered with love, you know, we really have, and I'm just so grateful, and we'd just like to say thank you to everybody who has given us any sort of help and support through all this. You know, I love my family very much, my husband, my children, my mum, and the rest of my family. And for those of them who aren't Christians, I would just want them to really examine who Jesus is, what he says about himself, what the Bible says about him, and really seriously consider the claims of Jesus, that they might be able to see the truth in what he has said and what he has done, and become Christians themselves. That would be, for me, that is, like, you know, the most important thing, really. But we're just really overwhelmed by people's kindness and love towards us through this time. It's been one of the most amazing and positive things about being ill, is that you actually realise how kind people are. So,
that's great. Barry, thank you for speaking so candidly. It's been just a pleasure to have a coffee with you and time with you this morning. It really has. Thank you very much.